All right. Well, praise God. We are here once again on the VBPH Sermon Podcast. Pastor Adam back with you again, and very pleased to be joined by a wonderful and talented, gifted brother in the Lord. Hey, why not? Pastor Deon Howard. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Pastor. How you doing?
Hey, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining the podcast, and thank you to our listeners. We are broadcasting live once again, only for our premium subscribers. So if you're hearing this later on the podcast, we want to remind you that one of the features of being a premium subscriber, not only are you going to support world evangelism with your premium subscription money, all of that's going to World Evangelism Thursday in Chandler, Arizona, October 2022. But you also get to join us on the discussion as we record these Testimony Tuesday episodes live on riverside.fm. So thank you so much for being a subscriber. That's so awesome. And thank you for joining us tonight, Pastor Howard. What a blessing it's been, man, to watch you and your ministry begin to grow and thrive, and man, just an incredible thing to see what God is doing. As you were saved over there in Hampton, Newport News, and your ministry began to take off. And so I'd like you to take a moment, first of all, as we get started here. And for those who don't know you and may have heard of you but don't know all the details, maybe you can just share, the short version of you, your wife, and where you are, and what kind of ministry you're involved in right now.
Right. So again, a pleasure to be here with your Pastor Dragoon. But for those who don't know me, my name is Deon Howard. My wife, Terry Howard. We have 6 children. I always tell people, when I get to heaven, I can tell God one thing I did right was multiply. So we got that down right, got that down packed. But yeah, we are over here, Newport News, Virginia. The assistant pastor here under Pastor Larry Mitchell, Miss Mona, wonderful couple here. I've been serving here for many years now, and so God's really been doing some great things through my life, my wife, children, and so just really happy to be saved in this day and time right now, and being a blessing to our mother church here.
Amen. Well, it's a blessing to have you, and you're no stranger to our podcasting efforts. You were part of the Blast podcast when that thing was still around, and you and Brother Rome, Pastor Rome, you actually started your own podcast way back when. So we appreciate your involvement with that, and man, it's amazing to see how God has used that, and man, I'm blown away at how God is really blessing this format and making it a blessing to our churches and fellowships all around the world. So we appreciate you being a part of that. So, man, we're here to share a testimony tonight, and knowing you and just a little bit of your history, I'm excited to get kind of a deep dive and all the gory details, because I don't know them. So
well, buckle up.
Here we go. Yes, sir. So Pastor Deon Howard, where did you grow up, and what was your family life like?
Well, I grew up a military child, only child at that. So that might explain a lot of things. Now you know. But no, I'm the only child. They decided to have one. I was too much. But I guess So I grew up there in Augusta, Georgia. My mother and father was raised there. A little bit about my growing up. For the most part, good parents. They really loved me. I'm still do to this day. I'm the only child, the baby. So I grew up a little obviously on the spoiled end. Always was on the receiving end of getting, and I'll probably talk about that a little later as we go into my testimony, because of that, always on the receiving end. As I got older, especially going into my early years of Christianity, I really struggled with being a giver, so to speak, to really output, because I was always receiving and getting. So grew up the only child, spoiled. As far as religious background, my mother and father, they weren't Christians. at that time. It's getting better now. My mom is, my dad's trying. He's going to one of our fellowship
Oh, is
churches.
that right?
Yeah, in Augusta, Georgia, Pastor
Oh,
Hurl.
Pastor
Uh,
Hurl. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah,
down in
yeah.
that church not too long ago. Praise
Yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah. Good friend of mine, man. And so, so God's moving. But I grew up, like I said, just simple life. Had everything given to me. Had a great childhood. There's no complaints there. Um, uh, as far as church life, my family was kind of religious. My mom and dad didn't necessarily go to church all the time. The only time we would go to church is when there was a funeral, somebody died. Easter was really, really big. We had to say our Easter egg program speech. I still know it to this day. I don't know if you care to hear it. It's like 10
Oh,
seconds.
please. Maybe we'll invite you over just for that.
Right, right. So it says, Easter egg, don't you cry. I'm going to eat you anyhow. Happy Easter, everybody. That was every year. And the crowd would go wild, man. But that's a whole nother uh, tale of the religiosity that we're living in. But yeah, so as you can tell, grew up religious, man. And back in those days, knew your Easter egg speech, man, you were saved, man. I'm telling you. So that was really the only time we would go to church when those particular type of events, Mother's Day. Um, so yeah, as far as childhood, now as I grew older, um, my parents were married for about I want to say 21, 22 years. My dad was in the military about 22 years. When I was about 21, they ended up getting a
Mm.
divorce. After all those years and whatnot, they ended up getting a divorce. Unfortunately, I was, like I said, about 21, right at the peak of just, filling out things. And to be honest with you, I kind of out of sight, out of mind type thing because at that time, do you want me to kind of go into my testimony
Well,
now as far
no,
as
yeah, we're going to get there, but I just want maybe a
okay?
little curious about your upbringing. Like, what kind of things were you into when you were in high school? Were you in
Mm,
sports? Were you in those kinds of things?
right, right, right. Well, so yep, growing up in high school. Okay, so a couple stories with high school. Um, I grew up around a lot of prestigious friends, meaning most of all of my friends were people that you would thought going to the NBA, NFL. In high school. I grew up playing a little bit of basketball. I never really got to play any type of grade school sports because I was just in and out of trouble in school and not doing certain different things, made myself ineligible. But in high school, one of the biggest things that I was involved in was just trouble, man. Just in the neighborhood doing various different things. That kids do. Nothing too bad. Like I said, all of my friends. Well, I had two sets of friends. I had friends that were into sports that I hung around. Then I had the knuckleheads, obviously, and so I never necessarily got caught up with some of the things they were doing. There was a couple of different times that life could have went in different directions or whatnot. But for the most part, man, just I was just always in the midst of it. I was the hype man. I was the one that was always in the midst of something, whether that was instigating something, whether that was on the front lines of something, always ambitious, always wanting to do things. I remember one time, like I said, a lot of my friends were high top prospects to go to big time colleges, and so we used to have this in high school. I remember they had like a what kind of like this, but more like a TV program. Where it's called Tony C Sports, and so I would go on there every Friday night. All the people from the city would go on there and talk about their team, and I became known as a super fan. True story. And so I would go on there so much, just bragging on our high school and talking about my friends that were playing to it. It got so popular that people would call on the actual air wanting me on the show. And so I'll be talking trash. Like, who is this guy that no one knows? You don't play no sports, you just talk trash or whatever, So anyway, man, I remember looking at the show one day and again, I remember Tony C saying, this guy Deon that everyone's talking about, they want you on the show. So I remember coming on the show, Pastor, and I remember it was almost like I was in the Hollywood stage. It had this big old bright light on me, and I had a little microphone. I'm just talking about various different things. And so I had my little 15-second of fame real quick in high school and whatnot in regards to that show, because it was a big show in our city, and I was always found myself on there. But other than that, man, I mean, just a big partier in high school as far as that
Did
goes and
did you
different
get
things.
did you get wrapped up in like alcohol, drugs kind of stuff?
No, not in high school. And that's where it gets ready to go into my early 20s. In high school, I was just a class clown, man. I didn't do any drugs. I didn't, I would drink every now and then. Because what's fun, what's crazy is I ended up getting kicked out of school in 11th grade. I had missed so many days or whatever. I had to end up graduating, and it was my wife always joking with me about it, because they had to pretty much pay for me to go to school to graduate. It was in a little house, bro. It was like bootleg. This guy from Trinidad had this doctorate degree that he was just giving away diplomas. I put my parents through all type of stuff. They got to pay $50 a week. I mean, it was just bootleg, man. It was like a little house on the prairie. That was a high school. They had a basketball team and everything. It was like comical. But I end up because I end up graduating in December. Like, who graduates in December? Like, nobody. That's how you know it was jacked up or whatever. I graduated like December 28th,
Merry
in the
Christmas.
cold or whatnot. Yeah, Merry Christmas. And so, but anyway, but yeah. But no, I just a class clown, man, just always getting into stuff, but heavy drinking and drugs didn't come, they came a little bit
Okay.
after high school.
So did when your parents broke up, you were 21, did that have an effect on you? Were you already out of the house by that time?
Oh no, I mean, my priorities was jacked up. I didn't leave the house till I was 24. We get to that in a minute. But you know what, man? At that time, how can I describe that divorce? I guess I was more naive. I thought she was coming back because she wrote a letter and was talking about, her departure. My mom wrote a letter. I came home one day, and out of nowhere, she wrote a letter in regards to that she was going to be leaving. Um, it remained a real big mystery all the way for like years on that, for like on all different times. I started finding out certain different things, but I guess at the time, man, because I was really getting drugs, and I mean the party life even super heavier, and I'll talk about that in a minute. I guess for me, it was like surreal. I was like, oh, she'd just be
Mm,
back. Then year passed, then this year passed. There's 3 or 4 years. I'm just like, hmm. So it's really out of sight, out of mind. I think what I do, looking back now, I kind of just
really?
blocked it out. So it
You never
never really,
processed it.
I, I never processed it, but it didn't bother me. It didn't stop nothing, but it was just like numb. It was just like, but after a while, I was like, okay, well, she ain't coming back. But by that time, I was just so spaced out doing my thing, and so it really didn't. It really just didn't affect me any tangible way that I can tell you. Maybe her being in the household at that time more, I probably would have maybe, 'cause my mom was the real
Mm,
discipliner in my household or whatever. She'll slap me for no reason, man. Bow. My dad was, the opposite, very
mm-hmm.
lenient on me, which that, good parents, man, they really love me, still do. But there's a lot of leniency on me being the
Sure.
only child. I believe, and it's kind of just it did take nothing on their part. They just spoiling their only child. But for me, I think it caused other different things to be a procrastinator in life, and so a lot of different things. Like I didn't get my license, man, until I was 27 and married.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. If it wasn't for my wife, if it wasn't for my wife, I'd probably still be driving dirty right now. Yeah.
Oh my
So
goodness. So
yeah.
so when your mom left out, so it was just you and your dad left in the house then.
Oh man, it was a mess. Yeah, that's when the things really got
Yeah?
crazy.
What what
Yeah,
what
yeah.
started you down that road?
Well, so I mean, my house, and actually, you spoke about Rome, Pastor Cobos. We grew up in the same neighborhood and never even knew it. Uh, yeah, until I seen him 2010 when we started talking, and he came into the fellowship and over there in Hampton, and we got to talking, but we never knew each other. I stayed in a neighborhood called Pepper Ridge. I stayed on it was literally like top. and bottom. But anyway, my house, man, you would have thought, if you didn't know any better, you would have thought it was an actual club, but in a residential area. I mean, we partied so much. So check it. The schedule of my dad, especially once my mom left. Um, um, Now my dad, he would crack down on me on different things, but it was just only so much because he was kind of doing the same things too, going out to the club, different stuff as well. He just wanted me to have some respect for his house, which I didn't. And he would leave early in the day, let's say maybe 10, 11 o'clock. He was a correctional officer. He retired out of the military. So he worked at a correction facility for a few years. And his job, although he didn't work long hours, it was very permissible for me and my friends in the neighborhood to do what we want to do and try to straighten up by the time he got home. So my house was just one of those spots, man, where everything, oh man, yeah, hangout spot was an understatement, man. We just really just did everything we did. I did drugs in my parents' house. Um, there was you know, one room might be for drugs, the other room were gambling. I had a heavy gambling problem with shooting dice. You know, so as I got into my early 20s, that's when everything kind of started. Cause I mean, I was scared to death to do drugs and do different type of stuff when I was in my mom and dad house. I would go to parties and stuff, but I was never the drug user or whatever. I just wasn't. But out of high school and getting into my early 20s and having that leniency with my dad being there and gone, you know, all my friends did drugs. All my predominant friends that I told you that had promises in the NBA and now they're in college. So now I'm with the other set of friends, the ones that are nobodies,
What'd you
and I
call
was a
them? The
nobody.
hooligans.
And so yeah, the hooligans, yeah, the ones that still doing the same
Mm,
thing today,
yeah.
20 years later. Um, Now I'm with
Right.
them set of friends. And I'm like, man, and life is like passing me by. I'm 20, I'm 21, 22, and all I'm doing is going to clubs. I'm disrespecting my parents' house. I remember one time just backing up, because actually it did kind of start right when my mom's exiting out. She had this glass table, a very expensive glass table, and we're in the kitchen shooting dice, and somewhere or another, something happened playing around horse playing and fell back on the whole crystal table and broke it. That was the start of being very destructive in my parents' homes. They would come home, there's holes in the walls from just horse playing. Because again, I mean, everybody, my house may at a good day have anywhere between 30 to 40 people in it. It was like that bad. Like cars, you would thought it was a movie scene because outside of the car of my house, it was like a strip of just cars and just people just out there. And yeah, and so that was my life for like the last for between 20 years old and to like 24. That was it. That's what I almost did every day, was like routine. And you could tell my dad was getting fed up. He would come home. We're trying to clear the house out from smoke, and all he's wanted. It wasn't that he was so on me about doing my drugs or drinking. It was like, listen, have some respect. Like, go out of my house. Don't disrespect like that. And I didn't necessarily, I guess, mean to. I love my mom and dad, but I just was out there, man. And now that you asked me the question, man, I wonder. I don't know. I don't know if that was I can't really say at the time that was the way me coping with my mom leaving, because I in real time I didn't think that, but maybe some, I don't know, subconsciously that's
Mm,
what I was doing
right.
and didn't
Yeah.
know it, because that was not happening
Right.
when she was there.
Yeah.
That I can tell you.
Wow.
Hmm.
So I wonder who was bankrolling all of this, man. That sounds like an expensive party ongoing.
Right. Well, I wasn't. I was a bum, man. Listen, I'm telling you. Um, I mean, and it wasn't like I hung around a whole bunch of friends that were balling and nothing. Because we were just low life. Listen, we grew up good kids, man. We wasn't one of those stories where people just,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying they got a license to do things anywhere, but I had
Yeah.
a good home, good
Right.
middle class. I was the only child. I always got everything given to me. So I had no reason to And again, I wasn't in the streets. I wasn't in no gangs. I wasn't out breaking into houses. I just had no business
Yeah.
about myself. I was the only child. All I wanted to do was party, get high, chase girls. I mean, it got so bad, Adam. We would go out of we would go out of town on a dime, man. We'd shoot to Miami. We'd go to Atlanta. Now, you know what? Let me back up. You'd ask me what are the things I
Yeah.
like to do a lot. That I was a
Oh,
dancer.
really? Now that's what
Yeah, I was a
that's one of
big
them
time dancer.
that's
That
one of
just
them
came into
skills
my
that
head.
doesn't translate into the kingdom very well.
Right. I can't do that. I can't. We don't got praise dance and different stuff in our fellowship. So, but no,
Yeah.
that was my thing. Now that we're talking, you got me kind of just thinking. Yeah, from high school, that was me. I was the partier. I was the first one in the club, last one to leave. I was leaving when the janitors left, bro. Like it was bad. So all you asked me about who was funding stuff. I mean, my dad would give me I would have these little jobs here and there, nothing serious, working at a restaurant or different things. So and then my friends they have their money, but all our monies went through
Mm,
clubbing and drugs and people. We hung around people that sold drugs. Like,
mm,
we were really bums, man. We
yeah.
were we just these spoiled kids
Well,
in these neighborhoods
you
living
know
in
what's
our
funny
parents'
about that
house.
is I see that in so many kids today. It's not that they're
Mm,
broken, that they're poor. It's
nah,
just, man, that they're so
right.
they're so they don't understand how blessed they are, right? And they take it for granted. This is
Right.
why I love taking
Mm-hmm.
kids out of the country for the first time to see how really good they have
Mm,
it. But man,
right,
that
right,
that lifestyle that you describing right now I mean, our churches are filled with people like that, and maybe not to that same degree, but
right,
you know with
right.
church kids especially, like, man, growing up in good blessed homes with saved parents, and
Yeah.
and still begin acting the
Mm-hmm.
fool. Just as we're recording this here on Monday
Right.
night, we did a testimony Tuesday with Pastor Paul Alvarez, right? And so that'll be
Mm,
coming out tomorrow. But man, his story—that's his story basically. Man, he grew up in this great Christian home. His dad's pioneering. His mom, his family, they're tight, but you just end up taking it for granted. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
and I see that. I
Right.
see that such a
Mm-hmm.
weakness. In a lot of kids, and
It is.
not just kind of floundering and not really finding your way in those early 20s years. I
Mm,
see that so much, man. I
right.
see, and
Right.
having interviewed a bunch of pastors on this show, the ones that like really get serious at a young age, like when they're 17, 18, get married 19, 20 years old, man, what a blessing that is. But when you miss that window,
Amen.
it's like,
Yeah.
wow, you can, well,
It's like so much
yeah, yeah,
passes
you
through that there's so much just passes through it, and you're right that you hit it on the head. That's my story. It wasn't a situation. Again, there's never no
yeah,
excuse or doing anything devious just because. But you do have people that will make their valid. Hey, look, I do this. I didn't have this. I didn't have no mom and
right,
dad. That wasn't my case. I lived in a neighborhood where, listen, man, everything I was missing
right,
meals. That wasn't the case. It just was taking it for granted. Being again, I told everything was
yeah,
always given to me. Everything was given to me. I mean, listen. I was a teenager. I told this story a couple of times, maybe in some sermons I preached. Man, I'm getting Christmas like a 5 year old when I'm 16, 17 years old, bro. I recall I was about 12 years old. Quick story, real quick. I got like 84 presents, bro. 84. Listen, it was so bad, right? We went out of town. My mom, because she was just big with Christmas, she took about 40 of my presents out of town because we were celebrating. And my mom was she brought all my cousins. I got a lot of cousins.
yeah,
That kind
right,
of made up for my brothers and sisters, by the way. Because we would go out of town a lot to Vidalia, Georgia, that's where my dad from. And just real quick, I got this Christmas, I got all these presents. I'm there. And again, this is part of the madness, man. That I loved it then, but it
mm,
hurt me as an
came back
adult, man.
around,
That's why
yeah,
I'm giving you these stories. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And so I remember I opened about 40 presents. In my mind, when I go back home, I got more presents to open. Well, to our surprise, we come home and
Oh
our home is
no.
broken into. And so the first thing I'm thinking, like, yo, because somebody loves me. How about the thief? He took all the TVs, all the VCRs we had, and left every single present that I had under the tree. And I'm there while my mom and dad arguing and cursing about who could have did it and talking to the police. I'm just, I'm showing them, like, yeah, I still got this. I still got that, But anyway, it was a mess, man. But saying all of that, I really believe, Pastor Dragoon, some of the just the so, and again, this is no
Right.
weight on my mom and dad or whatever. It's just, you know,
Yeah.
I'm the only child. But just for me, it made me not have an
Mm.
urgency about life. It made me just really sit back down. I'm always going to get, and then as we now kind of maneuver into them days closer to when how I get saved, I'm 24 years old. And man, it got to a point, man, I was doing ecstasy, man. Um, and I didn't do it that much, but I did it enough. Let me just say it like that. I was never the guy when it come to drugs. I never sold it. I never even really bought it. My friends always had it, and I did it. That's the thing. And so I remember one night, man, coming back from a club. I'm just in my mom and dad room or whatever, and I'm like, listen, man, it got so bad. My house was so much of a spot. My front door, for some reason, would not lock. My door stayed open 24/7, bro. Like, because the lock was in, me and my dad both were just too lazy to fix it. So my friends, they would
Wow.
come in the house.
Is-
Come in the house. My dad had a habit of sleeping on the floor in front of his TV. Because instead of sleeping in his bed, he would watch TV and fall asleep on the floor. I got friends and girls, people stepping over him, trying to be quiet to get to my room. And I remember one night just sitting here like, and it kind of like hit me. I'm like, yo, this life that I'm living
yeah.
is crazy. Like, who does that? Who goes into people's parents' house? I got people sneaking in out my window. Cause my dad was, depending on the friend, he was like, all right, I just keep it quiet back there. But I got to the point, I said, man, I am really disrespecting my
Mm.
dad's house. It got so bad, man, where I try to put something on my door. Cause they would come early in the morning when he leaves sometimes. They'd be Dito. I'm out, so that's what they call me. My nickname was Dito. It was like, Dito, that we outside, man. It's like early in the morning. Like birds are still chirping. They want to get high. I'm trying to lock my windows, and
Oh
so my
my
friends
goodness.
couldn't even get in. And I don't know what's happening with me. I didn't have no, at this point, no encounter with God or whatever. But now I believe it. He was slowly breaking me
Yeah.
like, yo, this life
Yeah.
is old. You are in the very thing that you're doing that you love to have fun in. Now you're like, yo, it gotta be more than life. All my childhood friends are playing college basketball, about to go to I'm in football, about to go to the NFL. This guy's over here, and my other set of friends, they're doing nothing. And so, man, it got to a point, man, where I was
Mm.
just really discouraged. I got really, really discouraged. And so I
Oh
don't know if you
man,
want me to kind of
the fun
transition
the
to
fun runs out pretty quick,
how I
doesn't
got
it? Yeah.
right, right, right,
So,
right, right.
okay.
It really
Well, what
did
I'd like you to
quick.
do
It kind
before
of
you
just,
start moving towards how did you get to the place of salvation, like talk to the person who is in that place, maybe struggling with growing up, like
mm,
struggling with taking that step of
right,
adulthood, that responsibility. Like maybe there's somebody who's going to listen to this who's kind of stuck in that place. What would you say to him?
right. You know, the Apostle Paul makes mention that, you know, when I was a child, I thought like a child. And is making a mention of, several different ways you can go there, but it it doesn't benefit you to be grown and still do childish things. It doesn't benefit in the back end of life. Again, it really short. You really miss out on a lot when you don't grow up. And sometimes I know for me, and if you're listening, you're probably in that state of mind where, because at the time I had no responsibilities. I'm at home. But now, what I literally watched was life pass me by in my early 20s. I mean, I'm working burger jobs. I attempted to go to school one time. They got my paperwork mixed up. It was just so easy to have no priorities and have no ambition and drive. And listen, that spirit of laziness for those that don't want to grow up, it becomes real. You become very complacent and you find yourself stuck in that place. I would encourage you, listen, grow up. Understand that, listen, life is not going to stand still for you. That the friends are going to grow up, people are going to move away, life is going to continue to build. And what happens is, Adam, it begins to stack up on you. The fact that you're not moving, things are just stacking up on you and get you in a desperate place of yearning for something. And that's what happened with me. Again, I didn't have a religious background, but I do want to say this because I think this is very key to mention. My grandmother
Ah,
was a
the
was a
the
Christian.
praying grandmother.
Right, right. And listen, one of the things about I can say when I was 9, 10, and 11, when I would go to my grandmother's house, for some reason, man, I always had a curiosity about the Bible. While all of my other cousins was running out in the streets, and I'm talking about kids. When I say running in the streets, I'm just talking about just playing hide and go
Yeah.
seek. I did that too, but I was the grandchild who would sit by her and ask questions
Mm.
and read the Bible and this with her and even as crazy as it sounds, when I got in my early 20s, I remember hosting Bible stuff. I was just playing with the
Yeah.
Bible. That's all. But something still drew, even in the midst of being high, I would pull out the Bible and talk to my friends about certain different things. I mean, not ministering at all, but just
You had some
doing
you had some
something.
curiosity about it.
I had a lot of curiosity, always been curious. And I believe that curiosity, when God began to deal with me about the emptiness of this party life that you're living, not going nowhere, that stuff kicked back
Mm.
in. And it was like, man, I got to do something. But that do something wasn't even about getting saved. It was just like, I would hear this inner voice like something is about to change and are you going to be ready for it? Because I remember that day, man, I was just kind of crying and just wanting to get away from my friends and don't want to do drugs no more. And so, but I would just say, that's what I would say. It doesn't pay to be empty in your whole
Yeah.
life, not pretty much not willing to grow up, especially as Pastor Dragoon mentioned, especially when you don't have
Mm.
to. No one don't have to, but people do have heavy struggles than
Yeah.
others where they gotta fight through some things. I didn't have to fight through nothing,
Mm.
bro. This stuff was an unnecessary journey. It's kind of like the Israelites, that 11-day journey from to Canada. It took 40 years, man. Unnecessary travel, bro.
Yeah.
That was me. Unnecessary, and that's what I would say.
Mm.
If you don't grow up, you're gonna take an unnecessary
Yeah.
travel.
Yeah. But in the long run, it took you where you needed to go. And same with
Right.
Israel. Even though it was unnecessary,
Mhm.
that was the process they
Mhm.
had to go through to get there. Yeah.
Right.
So talk
Absolutely.
about how
Absolutely.
where did the turn take place? Like how was it that you you know understood that God was actually pursuing you?
Well, man, get ready for this
Okay,
story.
I'm ready.
So, it's funny because when I tell my testimony and it's all my wife always nudges me when we're around visits. Oh, here we go, 'cause this is long. So I'm gonna get. So now being on this type of platform is just like I'm still gonna make it brief. Well, here's the thing. I'm 24 years old. I just come back from a little event we had in Florida called Spring Bling, where a lot of celebrities and different stars and was hanging out, and that was the thing too. We had a little few local celebrities, little rappers in the rap industry that I had friends that they were cool with. So there was a lot of people that one rapper in particular named Pastor Choi. I used to be kind of in his entourage. He was like this rapper or whatnot. I don't know if he's still around now, but this is the stage of where we're at now with it, where um, this oh, let me put this in here. This transformation begins to kind of take place. At this point, I'm um, I'm 24 years old. I'm just come back from this hanging out with stars and different little different things. Um, I have a friend named Terrence Hayes, and I'm forever indebted to him, man. All he ain't living for God or nothing, but because of what God used him to do, really set the pace and tone. And so anyway, man, I he had moved to Virginia. You know, explaining the whole Virginia transition. And he partied with me, did different stuff, but he was one of the ones that was trying to make some type of change. And he heard about the shipyard in Newport News through a friend, and he played basketball, so he was interested in playing in the apprentice program. And he had been up there for maybe, I don't know, 4 or 6 months, working in the shipyard. And so I remember him coming home one summer, and here I am. I'm this 24-year-old just still staying with mom and dad. Don't even have a license, none of that type of stuff. Just letting life pass me by. And he's like, "Hey man," he said, "why don't you try to come up to Virginia and do something different?" I'm like, "Well, what's in Virginia?" He said, "Well, look, I work in the shipyard. What I can do is I can rig you up this resume. I can get you in the shipyard, man. You can make all this money. Plus, you're from out of town, so they give you per diem. You'll be a sheet metal mechanic, making about $24 an hour." So that was kind of interesting. I'm like, okay. So, man, not bad. And you're going to rig me up a resume? Now, keep in mind, I've never been in the military. I've never been on a naval ship. At the time, I don't know the difference between forward and aft and port and starboard. You know, the side, I don't know anything. I don't know what the island house is. I don't know what the main deck. I don't know anything about a boat. And this man's about to get me a job. So I rolls with it, man. I tell my dad, I said, "I'm going to Virginia, Dad. Let's see what the chips fall at." Lo and behold, I get to Virginia. This is 2004. I'm there. I come up here. Now he stays in a bachelor pad. It's him. It's a 1-bedroom apartment. It's him, me, and 2 other roommates. 1-bedroom apartment, and we all slept. Oh, it's very crowded. We slept on our beds was the sectional couches. You know how the sectional couches that connect to that wall and they go to that wall and that wall. I'm on this couch. It's the same couch, almost like a C, but we got our own part. Like this couch is not separated. It's together, but it's just long.
So for
Oh
those
yeah,
who have never seen you in real life, you are not a small person.
right. I'm about right now about 6'2". At the time I'm about 230, something like that. No, not that big. I was about 200 at that
Okay.
time, or whatever. And so yeah, not a big. Hey, and by the way, the guys I was with, they weren't
No.
small either. So yeah. So we're there. I'm there about 2 weeks. As he said, he promised, he delivered. Man, rigged me up a resume. This girl showed me how to do this and do that. I went to some welding school. I failed the welding school, but because I had to connect, I still passed. So now, my first day at work, I am a qualified first class sheet metal mechanic,
Wow.
making $23 an hour plus per diem.
Man.
That story came crashing down within like 15 minutes. It's part of my testimony, so bear with me. So I'm there, and this girl, she said, "I know you don't know anything." I'm like, "I don't." She said, "Listen, if you need something, you need to come find me." Lo and behold, my first, I make more than my boss. His name was Mr. Green. I never forget. So he said, "Okay, you my first class. Good to have you." He said, "So listen, what I need you to do, I need you to cut this here, cut this there." And I'm a sheet metal mechanic. So he wanted me to cut and measure by the eighths and the rule. I'm like, "Man, I've been out of high school a minute. I remember the 16th. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, bro." So this is my head. So I'm gonna fake it
Right.
till I make it. So he gives me the paper, and I'm there, man. I got my measurements, man. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm about to sink this ship, man. About to be another Titanic, bro. And I'm like, I'm working on the bush or whatnot. So any sailors listen to me on the bush, hey, be careful. I'm just joking. But he comes back, he gets the paper, he looks at the paper, looks at me. It was a drawer over there. He's like, "Hey, I want you to measure this and show me where you would cut that at." So I'm all down there. I'm measuring stuff. I'm looking crazy, bro. I don't know what I'm doing. I stands up and he didn't say nothing. He just took the badge off my chest and said, "Sir, this job is
Oh
not for
my
you."
goodness.
I made $24 an hour for only 5 minutes.
Didn't even make it 1 hour,
So
huh?
I catch that bus down Warwick. I'm in Newport News at the time. Check this out. Not knowing the whole time the Potter's house, that I'm going to now is right down the street from. A matter of fact, Pastor Rosario stayed in the exact apartment complex across from mine the whole entire time I was here. So here's how it worked. So I gets there, my friend's having a big party. He had just dropped me. I worked the second shift. I bust through the door. They're drinking, smoking, got kind of look like my house back in the day or whatever. And I'm like, man, my words was I said, roll me up a blunt, man. I'm about to go back to Georgia right now tonight. He was like, whoa, 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 what's going on? And he all drunk and stuff. I said, man, I just got fired, bro. They found out that I don't know nothing early. And so he was like, whoa, 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 whoa. He was like, listen, man. He was like, listen, his exact words. He said, just stay here, calm down. He said, there must be a reason why you was in Virginia. That's exactly what he said. This is a total sinner who ain't got a clue, who's a sinner to this day, that God used to tell me those words. Cause I was gone, bro. But the reality is, I can make $7, $8 back home doing nothing. I came up to Virginia to make this money. That's it. Anyway, he was able to talk to me. I called my dad. I'm like, hey, Dad, I'm about to come back now. He's like, nah, boy. He was like, you need to stay up there. You're 24 years old. You need to try to figure this out. I could have came home, but it was my friend encouraging me and my dad encouraging me and saying, look, man, just even him, like, must be a reason why you're up there. I get this job, Adam. This is where, man, I tell you what, I had a speak to God, got a prayer life. But listen, this is probably one of maybe 5 times where I'm talking about a encounter with God. I ain't talking about just, no, I'm talking about a real encounter, and can't nobody tell me nothing different. When I say the Holy Ghost witness to me, that was my first flyer. It was from God. And here it is. I take this job in this it's called Danny's Deli, making about $6 an hour. Ain't what I come up here for. And I remember I used to work these long shifts. I remember walking home one night. Now, here's the format. At this time, it's about 2 months down the road in 2004. My friend that played basketball, he hurt himself in his shipyard. So he had to go. He went to Georgia. He's on workers' comp. So he's enjoying life, making free money, milking the system and all that type of stuff. So while he's doing that, this is the same person that brought me up. The 2 roommates that I had, they ain't really paying their bills and different stuff, and he ain't either. So now they actually move out for a time. They had baby mamas and places they can stay and different stuff. I didn't. So the lights is out. It's in the middle of June. Oh, sorry, April. No. Yeah, June. It's hot. Man, I remember just coming home every night, just like, man, just beat. And this one particular night, again, I'm there by myself, lights out. I'm just sitting on the couch in our living room, exhausted. And now my friend, his name is Derek. He wasn't a Christian and all, but he had this big old Bible, man. When I said this Bible was so big, it was a big blue Bible, probably about the size of that picture you see right there. I'm talking about big for no reason, bro. I mean, super big. You can't miss it. And he will always read it from time to time. Nothing about him to say. I mean, he would smoke and read. That's what he did. So now I'm just sitting there just tired, and I'm looking at this Bible. And God speaks to me clear as day as I'm talking to you now. He says, son, listen, no matter what you try to accomplish in life, no matter what you do, no matter what the situation is, he said, you're always going to feel empty until you surrender your life to me. I'm just sitting there looking at the Bible, and this is what's in my mind. Clear as day. I mean, a radical, it just hit me, man. And I'm sitting there almost like just stuck. 2 weeks after I got the news, I was gonna go back home. And I said, you know what, Lord? I said, just like that, I'm speaking out loud as I'm talking to you, just looking at it. I said, I'm about to read this whole entire Bible from the beginning to the end. I just spoke that commitment out. That's a whole nother podcast or a sermon for somebody listening. Just I spoke my commitment out. I said, I'm about to do this. Something I never done before. I never read 2 chapters back to back in my whole life, but it was like there was a confidence that I was going to do that. That's exactly what I
Man,
did.
it
Go
sounds
ahead.
like somebody prayed that into you.
Man.
Because that just doesn't happen, man. That's like that's
Oh
miracle
my
level stuff.
gosh. Man, I talk about it, the calendar. This is one of them. And here I am. I read this whole entire Bible in 3.5 to 4 months.
What?
Listen, I'm coming home. Keep in mind, you notice I ain't mentioned Potter's House Church.
Yeah.
I felt none of that has
Right.
happened yet. That's why I said my first flyer is from the Holy Ghost. Right? I get saved, bro. I'm talking about I'm reading the Bible. I'm coming home in the same circumstance. It's hot. I am so desired and so urgent to read this Bible. I would get off work. It was like clockwork. The lights was out in my apartment complex. I don't want you to picture this. Only light I had one of those apartments where you had to walk in the. It's like how you open an apartment. It wasn't outside. You had to walk in, and then there's like apartments up there, apartments there. I was so determined, excited to read my Bible. I would leave my front door open so the hall light from the apartment and open my blinds so the street light can help me read my Bible.
Wow.
I'm reading like 30 chapters a day. I'm going through Leviticus. I don't understand none of it, man. I'm reading. I'm just going through. But you know what? I read the whole entire Bible in like 4 months. And I tell everybody, did I understand everything? Nope. Did I comprehend everything? Nope. But God was doing something in
Yeah.
me. And I'm telling you, there was stuff I stopped cold turkey. I stopped drinking. I stopped smoking, stopped cursing, stopped having sex, all the basic stuff that I was doing. And here it is. I'm confessing my faith. I'm calling my friends back home. Like, yo, bro, I've been touched by God. I got saved, and
Wow.
I'm getting different responses. People are saying, "Oh yeah, man, that's cool. That's good for you." Other friends were saying, "Yeah, man, I tried that Jesus thing before." Almost like Jesus is some type of board game or
Right.
something. Like, no, you don't try, bro. This is a lifestyle. I'm telling my dad, he's happy. But he's not living for God. He's like, oh man, that's cool, man, that's good. I told you it was a reason up there, boy. Stuff like that. And so a couple of months go by. Now remember, I'm doing this by myself at the house. I don't have no influence
That's
there.
amazing.
But now the influence is coming back. My friend moves back from workers' comp. Now that he's here, the bread and butter, the other one's back in, and now they done lost their party friend and smoking friend.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they're actually proud of me. They're like, okay, well, you do your thing, but we still gonna do this, brother. And so here I am, I'm working my little job. I come home and I'm like the oddball. I'm jamming to gospel music. I got all type of religious stuff on Kurt Franklin. I ain't know no better, man. I'm just doing it, man. Mary. I'm just, you know. And so they're still smoking and drinking and different stuff. And so that's 2004. So going into 2005, a turn began to happen. I found myself getting
Okay.
religious, doing various different stuff. There's certain different things I still ain't doing, but there's certain different things like my
Yeah.
music. I'm still thinking I can get away with certain
Okay.
music or whatever. Again, no church influence, no pastor in my life, no
So
discipleship. I know God did
you were
something.
saved, but you weren't being discipled.
Oh yes, absolutely. That's exactly, and that's a whole nother importance
Mm.
of
Yep.
discipleship. Whoa, we take that for granted.
Absolutely.
Because God touched me.
Yeah.
There's some things I did not want to do no more. Then there was the religious
Right.
side of it. And so here it is, Adam, it's 2005 begins to turn. My friend who brought me up here, he goes out to the club one night. And it's snowing outside. But when I say it's snowing, it is coming down. And we sleep. And I knew he had went out. It's one of the night, again, I'm saved. I'm doing good. I ain't go out with him. I'm chilling. I'm sleeping in my house like I'm supposed to, you know. So man, it's about 4 in the morning. I wake up. Man, listen, I thought I was in hell. I woke up and I say that because it was pitch black and I'm coughing. There's smoke everywhere, black smoke. And I'm like, oh, I'm just coughing. I look and I see my friend sleep. to my left, but to my left, I see a light from the kitchen. And I don't know what it is, so I'm coughing. I'm trying to get to the kitchen. And before I get to the kitchen, my friend, which is, 12 o'clock right ahead of me, he busts out the door and he says, he got his jewelry on, his clothes. You can tell he just came from the club. We both I looked to the left, he looked to his right. And man, a
Oh
fire
no.
is crawling up the wall. What happened was he came home drunk, trying to cook some chicken fingers. He had a big old pot of grease
Oh
on high,
man.
and he fell asleep.
Oh.
And he had a Grey Goose liquor bottle that was right by the stove. And as we were looking in awe, the bottle just bam, the whole kitchen's on
Oh my
flames.
gosh.
Long story short, man, we get out the house safe. Nobody died that night. But here's the thing. Now, because the night before my friend Derek was cooking some chicken, smoking up the house, and he took the smoke detector
Oh.
down and never put it back up. Therefore, it's a hazard on our part. We lose the apartment, we all got
Mm.
kicked out. So again, they're from Virginia. They got places to go. I don't. And I remember it was about 2 weeks before Easter, coming into 2005. I remember the devil talking to me on that long 7-hour ride from down 95 South. He was like, "Yeah, you're a Christian in Virginia. Let's see how you do around in this familiar
Mm.
place, this Egypt of
Right.
yours." And I'm like scared because I really have changed, bro. I ain't got it all figured out. I no discipleship. I'm doing good for no
Yeah, right.
discipleship, bro.
Right.
Like I'm a
Yeah,
Christian,
yeah.
brother. Like by my stand, I'm doing it. I know I'm
Yeah.
changed, but now I'm like I haven't been this way back home. And I tell the listeners as I speak to you, man, I did good for about 2 or 3 months,
Mm.
man. And slowly but surely, all the things that God delivered me from, all the different things, I
Mm.
lost dominion. And I find myself back in the same situation. To put the cherry on top, remember I told you earlier in the testimony, I had these friends that was going to the NFL. Well, one of them name was Carlos
Mm.
Rogers. He played for the Washington Redskins for 7 years. Played with the 49ers when they went to the Super Bowl.
Wow.
I'm talking about friend. Like I know his mom, dad, his
Wow.
brothers. I've been and he signs a $13.5 million signing bonus the same summer that I'm
Oh
backsliding.
man.
That didn't help
No.
me. I mean, he had been in Auburn those 4 years, and now I'm backsliding, and I'm
Mm.
partying. I'm out with him. And I remember, man, just being in the middle of the club, man, I'm high, and I had one of my friends that just come home from doing some time, and he was like, "Man, why you sitting?" 'Cause I'm always the one to dance. He said, "Why you sitting there just not doing that?" And he just got out of prison. I said, "Listen, Devontae," I said, "you wasn't supposed to see me like this." 'Cause he was locked up. He's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Bro, you don't understand, man. Just a couple of months ago, I was saved, really living for God, man." Like, he couldn't process it. So 2005 moves on, and I'm being religious. I'm watching TDJ, doing a little different stuff, but I know I'm. So here's the funny thing: I'm sitting in my living room, my dad's house. It's almost like the same thing happened again that happened in that living room. I'm sitting, this time I wasn't reading the Bible. I was just looking at TV. God speaks to me clear as day. He says, "Son, listen. You thought you went to Virginia a year ago to sow your royal oats, get that job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." He said, "No, that's where I saved you at. That's where destiny is at, and you need to get back to Virginia." Weeks after that, can't make this up. The same friend that called me a year ago with the sheet metal job and trying to rig up my resume calls me 2 weeks later. "Deon, hey, look, bro, I got this job as an electrician in the shipyard. They can rig you up a resume." It was like the whole story all over again. I stopped him. I was like, "No, no, no, no." I said, "Look, bro, no, no, no." I said, "Look, pause, commercial break." I said, "Listen, I am thankful you called me, and I do need to get back to Virginia. I just had this encounter with God 2 weeks ago. Here he is. It's like identical, same situation,
Wow.
same fallacy. He wanted me to rig my way up. I'm like, no." I said, "I'm gonna put in an application like everybody else. I'm gonna believe God for this job, but I do need to come back up there."
Wow.
I leave my daddy's house about 2 weeks later. I go to Atlanta. Pastor Troy, that rapper I told you about. I'm going to one of his parties. I leave my house. I got $35 in my pocket, 2 brown beat up suitcases. I tell my dad, I said, Dad, I'm about to go to Atlanta to a party. There's a good chance if I get some more money, I'm going to catch a bus from Atlanta back to Virginia. He said, all right, son, let me know how it go. I got $35, 2 suitcases.
Mm-hmm.
I goes up to this party. And here's the so critical about decisions, man. Oh, in God's grace, I am toe up that night, Adam. I'm on ecstasy. I'm high. And but God's keeping helping me, man, even in the midst of that. So
It's
the
crazy,
party's
huh?
over, man. Yes, it's about 5 o'clock in the morning, bro. We're partying. We went to a
Ugh.
club called we went to a club called Club Anytime. How ironic is that? I mean, that's the name of the club is Anytime. Like I mean, we're getting out, bro, and people are going to work almost. And I remember standing on I-20. It's a movie scene. It's like I got one car going back this way, back home, because Augusta is like an hour and 40 minutes from
Right.
Atlanta. My other friend stayed in Atlanta, and I had already told him that, hey, man, I don't know how I'm going to figure this out, but I might stay with you. It's almost like I got the devil in one car and God in the other. My friends are saying, bro, you already went to Virginia, man. Don't go. I mean, literally, man, we got weed, man. Come on, let's just go back and finish. We go, because my friends, they couldn't just enjoy the Friday night. We partied so much, they thought about the next day. The next day
You're
haven't
making a
even got
plan.
here yet. They're making a plan. We got this club to go to. I'm like, I'm fighting. I said, no. I said, I can't. And so, I got in that car and I stayed with my friend and slept at his house. I wakes up, don't know where I'm going to go. I called one of my other friends who I went to school with, dropped him off because my friend, like, I got to go to work. So I'm telling my friend named Ronald Johnson, God bless him, man. He's probably the only friend I really had that really had a Christian influence background. So I'm telling him what I got going on. I ain't got no money. He's sitting behind his laptop typing up something while I'm over there just giving him my sob story, not knowing the whole time that he's arranging my bus ticket back to
Oh my
Virginia.
goodness. He
And
he
so
was
he's like,
already on it.
bro, he was already on it. I mean, he just typing away. So he's like, okay, so you leave tomorrow at 8. I said, huh? He said, yeah, man, I went and got you a ticket, bro. I said, man, thank you, bro. So I gets to Virginia just to speed this up. Now that friend is not in Newport News no more. He's in Portsmouth. That explains why I got saved in Portsmouth Church.
Right.
He's not in Newport News now. And so I'm there, and God tells me exactly what my mistake was. Or he said, when you get up here, one of the problems you did not have no church and no leadership. God speaks this to me on my way back to Virginia.
Where did that come
And
from?
bro, I don't know. God, that's how, when I tell you about these encounters, bro, like this stuff happened, man. And so God reveals to me, like, yo, one of your problems is you had no church. You had no stability, no accountability. You need to find a good church. So now that's on my radar. Because when I got saved a year ago, I'm saved. I know God's doing something, but I don't know. I went to church like twice.
Yeah.
Nothing. It was religious. I thought, like, me and God, hey, I'm reading my Bible. I'm good.
Maybe TD Jakes broke through on one of those TV sermons.
Man, he probably did, man. Creflo Dollar,
Yeah.
somebody like that.
Well,
Because I was
so
watching him being from Atlanta.
somehow you got that revelation. You needed some leadership in your life.
Yes, I got that revelation. I need some leadership. I need a church. And so here I am. I'm coming out of a food line, cashing that 35. No. Matter of fact, it was a check for $35. That's what it was. There wasn't even no cash, bro. And so I'm just wasting time. So about a week later, I go cash this check, man. Western Union, man. It's just crazy. I'm coming out of food line, and God had already told me you need to find a church. I got a brother from the Portsmouth church. They're getting ready to have a concert.
Oh
He
man.
walks up on me, and he hits me with one of my. They actually did pretty good witness. These evangelism revivals I've been doing throughout the
Yeah.
fellowship.
Yeah.
He did it straight like you supposed to, man. Hey, man, where would you go? Are I said, man, you know what, bro? I said, I'm backsliding right now, man. I said, but you are an answered prayer. I
Wow.
said, man, listen, I need to come to this church in the worst way. And so he was like, all right. So about 2 weeks, I held on to that fly. I remember going in my room. I said, I am not ever losing that fly. I didn't go to church for about 2 weeks, but I stamped it up there. I knew this was from God. I knew this was from God. And this was the church. So here it is. I finally go out. Antonio and Melanie was there at the time in Portsmouth. Now I'm still with this friend, but now he's a little better. He got a girlfriend now. He ain't that much wild, but they're still sinners. They're still not living right. It was much different from a year ago. So he's a little settled in now, a
Okay.
little better to
Okay.
world standards. So, but it still was stuff going on. We lived in a bad neighborhood, kind of. And I remember my pastor at the time saying, "Listen, I know it can be tough trying to be a new Christian." They said, "Listen, if you're willing, I would talk to my wife and my family and have you come stay with me." That was one of the biggest miracles, man, ever, man, in my life personally, that really got me in. And here it is. He
Wow.
takes me in. I stay with them. Um, Man, the rest is history. I
Man.
begin to be discipled. And my wife, she wasn't my wife at the time. I knew my wife in 2022. We was running the streets. We could have had a relationship at that time, but I just was just wilding in the streets, not wanting to commit or whatever. And I remember calling her and talking with her. And that summer of 2006, while I was staying with Antonio, witnessing to her. She had her own journey trying to find God and different stuff, and begin to minister to her and talk with her. And she, she comes up here and gets saved. And man, we just literally fell in love that
Wow.
summer, man. Begin to start talking about marriage. I fell in love with that girl, man, and she fell in love with me. And we just was talking about just doing things the right way. And now she moves up here on faith. Cause man, my wife was the opposite of me. She was a business minded, had 2 jobs, had an apartment, had her own
Oh, the
car.
responsible
About to
one.
right, the response about to marry this bum who's talking about he's about to get a job at the shipyard. But hey, the added to the testimony, here's God moves. I come up here, I put the application in when I moved in with my pastor, I get that job the right way. Now I'm in
Unbelievable.
the shipyard, unqualified, never been on a ship, but God
No, you were.
blesses it.
You
Now I
were
ain't,
for 15 minutes. Don't forget about that.
yes, that's right, that's right. And so I'm here, I'm like, yo, I just the difference the year makes, man,
Oh
when you
man.
make right decisions. So now I'm married. We end up getting married. Where we was gonna talk about getting married 2007 that February, but it's like man, bump that, man. It's like what we waiting on. We love each other, man. We got married September 3rd, 2006. About 4 or 5 months after I really got converted,
Go
bro.
for it.
The rest is history.
Man. So man, I'm reflecting on that, and that's no small thing that pastor
Right?
invited you to stay in his house. Like that,
No, not at all.
he must have seen something in you, because that doesn't just happen to everybody, who comes through our
Right,
churches.
right. He took me and said, "Listen, man, I would love to you come stay with me, man." And I stayed with him for 3 months, man, and was able to get my own apartment in the new. And actually moved to Newport News, staying right by the mother church. You didn't know our apartment complex was right by, but we was devoted to being at Portsmouth. And that's just a food for thought, man. You stay committed to where the miracle happened at, man.
That's interesting.
And it was right there in Portsmouth. Hmm.
So what was going on in the church at that time? Like Pastor Antonio, that was like a pioneer church
Well,
environment, right?
so yeah, oh, absolutely. They're probably at that time, it was 2006 we're talking about here. They was probably out about going close to maybe two
Yeah.
years. We had a couple of families along with ours there. And just that pioneer mindset, man. That's why I'm so big on, as we move to that, on the having a pioneer
Right.
mentality. But because as I'm coming up in the ministry, that my wife and I, it showed us a lot and really equipped us, um, and really had really shaped and molded to who we have become
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
today.
I think that's
Hmm.
such crucial experience to have, because I got saved in Chandler Church, which is
Right,
it's a ministry machine, man. It is something happening
right,
every day, and it's disciples rising up, and
right,
it's
hmm,
not just one guy that you're shaping for the future. It's
right,
it's 10 guys and their families, and so it's just
right,
another level. And so
hmm,
uh and it's easy to not have that pioneer mentality, like when you're in that larger church. And obviously the larger church experience has many of its own blessings that are different,
Right.
but
Absolutely.
for you, seeing that pioneer experience, you got to live it just as much as Pastor Antonio and Melanie.
Hmm.
I look at people in our church that have been here for the long haul and seen it when it was only 3 families, and they're just as
Hmm.
much pioneers as I am as a pastor. And so, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I just preached for
Hmm.
Pastor Rome yesterday on Sunday, and he was out of town for a wedding, so he invited me to come over there to preach. And the core of the church is him and 2 families.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Right.
they're doing just as much prayer and sacrifice and labor as Pastor Rome. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And obviously he's
Absolutely.
leading it, so it's a different calling. But
Right.
that's crucial experience. So now you can go to Tucson Church and Chandler Church and Jacksonville Church, and you can preach to large churches and have impact. But you can also go to Pastor Rome's church that's been open for 1 year,
Right.
and what they're
Right.
experiencing. You know what I'm saying? That's
Right.
critical experience, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's amazing, man. And like again, that experience, those 7, 8 years we were there, it's kind of give you the opportunity to speak from both sides of the fence.
Absolutely.
Because some folks don't have that experience. They go out to pioneer, but they've been in a mother church the whole time. Like you said, it's a different blessing, different
Right.
dynamics. But then you're going into the unknown of pioneering, to come from out of that, to be a part of a pioneer church, and like myself have already pioneered before. It's like, man, I've seen all the different, and now being blessed to be a part of the mother church.
Right.
Now it's like, man, I'm eating from the best of the tables,
Yeah.
man. Like,
Right.
I done taste a little bit of what it means to be a little spoiled, a little bit here in the mama or whatever, and the grind of
Right.
pioneering as a
Yeah.
pastor, and then being a disciple in a pioneer
Right.
church. Oh, it's been very critical to a ministry
Praise
for
God.
sure.
Well, tell me a little bit more about your discipleship journey. As you got into this church,
Mm.
and now all of a sudden you're under leadership. What did that mean to you compared to what it was like before? Kind of just winging it on your own.
And the dynamics changed, man. Where should I start? From just the
Yeah.
accountability, the accountability, um, the growth level, the commitment to just stay on the straight and narrow. No more revolving door. No more just being beat up by it, giving into every temptation. God, I got some solid leaders around me, other families that are young that I can labor beside. Man, it was just critical. The discipleship, the things my wife and I both learned in regards to that, man. So, I mean, it's just
Mm-hmm.
night and day in regards to just, there's nothing like great direction, man. Having some direction. And then for me, that's why it's just a blessing being, just in our fellowship in
Yeah.
general, because it wasn't just
Right.
Portsmouth that influenced me. It was the mother
Absolutely.
church.
Yeah.
It was the conferences we went to. We went to Chandler. I mean, this is like the Super Bowl, bro. When see, and that's the part you didn't get to spend. You're from Chandler.
Yeah.
We're from this baby working the East Coast and hearing about all these great stories and hearing about Pastor Campbell and the Campbell soup and going to the desert and to where and hearing the history of the fellowship, and now I'm a new convert that's
Right.
there. So yes, discipleship and everything I experienced now being saved, as opposed to, again, God touched me, God saved me, but you see how long that
Right.
lasts. That was starting to be short lived, and it went for a couple of decisions by God's grace. Me and you not even talking on this
Right. Right.
podcast because of
Right.
discipleship, because of accountability, all those things that pushed and edged, my wife and I on, in the course of our ministry and time being saved.
So how soon did you know that there was a calling on your life to pursue pastoral ministry?
Really quick, man. I, I guess as I got saved, as I was saved and living for God, and little different things in my life is just, I was always just ministering at work in the shipyard. The shipyard, now, speaking of the ship, now it's 2, 3 years
Yeah.
into it. The shipyard is a whole
Oh
nother,
man.
see, the shipyard just ain't got employees. The shipyard got
Yeah.
spirits, like 20,000 of them, and there's 20,000
Right.
employees, so there's 20,000
Yeah.
spirits. And man, just the rare, just different things that I would do. I felt like, we would go street preaching to the gate, man. Out in different things, and I just felt, and then just between ministry and discipleship and being obedient, God spoke to me early on that about being a pastor, that I was going to be a pastor. Apart from people feeling like I was going to be one and saying different things, family member, or whatever, because my family for the first time really seeing somebody living consistent, because all of them kind of religious. And so just hearing that, believing that, being a part of a fellowship that breed preachers, man, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't hype. It wasn't a situation. I wasn't never that disciple that said, "Oh, I got to get out there and this and that," because being a part of a pioneer, I knew how hard it was, how hard it was going to be. Now that didn't tear me away. I knew I had calling, but it was just the perfect and right time. And so I knew early on, man, within a couple of years that I felt I was called to be a pastor. And I say that to all those who listen. Hey, don't be called to be a preacher. You better be called to pastor. There's a difference. There's a difference. I tread lightly on being called to preach, but be called to be a pastor, because preaching a sermon has nothing to do with the phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, or dealing with people when they don't want to deal with you no more. Like, that's pastor. So be called to be a pastor. And so through my ministry and working with people, because that was my mindset about what it means to be a pastor, and God was already using on me in the local church with ministering and dealing with people. That also kind of confirmed, like you asked the question of pastoralship, because to me, that's what it's all be about. Pastor is not about just preaching and writing a sermon. It's so much more with dealing and serving people. So since I've done that in a pioneer setting for 7 years, it helped that. I said, this is what pastoring is about. Before I even became a pastor, working, dealing with people, spending time with them, et cetera, et cetera. So being in the ministry helped confirm more so God echoing that in my heart, that I'm called to be a
Praise
pastor.
God. So, one thing that I have observed about you as a person and your ministry is that you have a real gift of I would say encouragement and fruitfulness. You're like Barnabas in the book of Acts, man. That people get around you, they get happy, they want to serve God. You know what I'm saying? And at least I feel that way when I'm around you, and I know that if I feel that way, that others will feel that way too. Is that something that you feel like God put in your life early on, like the spirit of encouragement and fruitfulness and being able to bring people to the kingdom?
Yeah, I do. I do believe it's a gift. I believe that God helped me. Um, but you know what, though, Pastor Adam, I think a lot of it, me looking back into my life when I wasn't saved, what I do recognize and see what God is almost like God kind of crossing over that a talent, so to speak, that or a energy that I had when I was living in the world to now in the kingdom of God. See, when I was in the world, again, there wasn't a party I
Right.
wouldn't miss. There wasn't friends that I wasn't trying to encourage, or I shouldn't say encourage, but make laugh or whatever the case may be. That just that high energy are always on the go. And I think what has happened it is that God taken that same energy and different things of, because I've always been a people's person. Again, I always had, again, I was the only child, but I had
Right.
lots of friends. And for the wrong reasons, I did have a lot of friends that liked it to be around me. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, absolutely. But that has just now transformed to what you said. I believe into the kingdom of just that personal. God gives us all different gifts, and at the time for 24 years, I was
Yeah.
using it wrong, and now it's just a situation where now that I'm saved and born again, I would agree. I do believe that God has really blessed me in that sense of what you
Amen.
spoke to for sure.
So when you got first sent out to go pioneer in Chesapeake, you were not sent
Mhm.
out from the Portsmouth Church, right? You were sent out from Newport News. Is that correct?
That
Okay.
is correct.
So at
Yep.
some point there was a transition. Were you attending church there instead? you'd come back into the mother church?
Yeah, we was in Portsmouth again like for 7 8 years. Um, Things kind of transpired, didn't work out there or whatnot, and we ended up coming over to the mother church, and Pastor Mitchell, who had took over the ministry here at that time, really just embraced us, listened to us. I tell you, man, just a commercial break, man. My pastor, man, is really him and his wife are just monumental to me and my wife and my family. Hey, everything that we are experiencing in the ministry, I can just tie back to him because doing that transition was
Yeah.
really tough, considering we was
Right.
committed, even to the end. Didn't necessarily even want to leave. We were in
Right.
in it there in Portsmouth or whatnot. But again, it didn't work out for those for similar different reasons. But the fact that Pastor Mitchell had his own mind about us and saw certain
Yeah.
different things, and within just due time, those things were able to be put and played into
Right.
action. And so yeah, that's how the transition came from Portsmouth and being in our mother church, and right off the gate, man, we didn't come over to our mother church twiddling our thumbs, but again, that's part of that pioneer
Yeah.
mentality,
Yeah. And
the
you know,
of locking
I
in.
can imagine that was really good for you, but I think it was also really good
Hmm.
for the Newport News Church to have you there. And I saw the same thing when Pastor Jamar and Ruth just recently almost did the same thing, coming back and
Right,
coming off the battlefield of the pioneering, and to come in and
right,
experience that.
right,
I think that really brings a healthy flow of ministry, and it obviously you needed that, but I think the church needed that too. you know and
right,
it can be healthy
right,
for
right, right,
everybody.
right,
So yeah,
right.
when I think of your Pastor Mitchell, you know what I think about? I think of somebody who brings such a great stability in ministry. Like, where he's going to be,
Right,
what he's doing, right? He's going to be faithful.
right,
So I
absolutely.
really appreciate
Hmm.
his friendship also.
Yes, yes,
So, how long
absolutely.
was it before you got the nod to go ahead and start a new church in Chesapeake?
So we feel it hot in here. So we came over in 2014, right before the conference, Bible conference, critical decisions being made, and so we're here. 2015, we were in the church, took over the follow up team. God, I mean, we see the Bible, man. I mean, we had a little cross that we had in the back of our prayer room, and we filled it up and read by blood of all the souls that were being added to the kingdom. And I mean, we had our hands full, man. We had visitors, some that are still today, um, uh, uh, um, just long lasting fruit. And then in 2016 is when we got announced to go to Chesapeake, Virginia, and man, had the time of our life, man. God, it's almost like that seed that has been just there, and God at His perfect time and through the right men of God, our Pastor Larry Mitchell and different things, everything
Yeah,
just blossomed. Because I mean, I tell you what, I went to Chesapeake with expectation that God was going to move, but I'd be telling you a story if I thought it was. I mean, had 31 people
that's
our first
amazing, man.
service. I mean, for the next 4 months, man, our attendance was like 45 people. Our Sunday nights, Wednesday nights was like 30. I mean, I'm just like, this is unreal. I'm like, go to I married my first two couples within 4 months. I mean, we just
Yeah,
having
yeah,
revival, man. People are getting in or whatever, and different things, and trying to disciple men and different stuff. And, so we had a very, very good time those 2.5 years there. And,
yeah.
church still there today. Some folks, ain't there no more, but hey, God
Oh yeah,
definitely did use us in that fashion, and you came over there a couple
man,
times and helped us,
man.
man, and
I've
was a
seen it. I've
blessing,
seen it.
man.
And even the last time that you came and you did your Walmart blitz for us, we ran across one of those couples, huh? Man,
We did. The very first, man, that was crazy, man. I'm telling you, man, I'm talking about that
you know
Walmart,
what?
man.
And even though that couple, Carlos and Andrea, that
Hmm.
they haven't been coming to church, but they've been staying in contact with us, and so I'm still believing God for them, man.
Wow.
I'm still believing God.
Amen. That's how you do it. Oh, well, that was the thing. When he first came into our church, his wife at the time was coming, and I just kept working with him here and there. He finally said, you know what? His first thing he came to was a men's
Yeah,
discipleship in Norfolk. But he tells months later, man, the reason why I really came out, he said, because you were
yeah,
so consistent with checking on me, man. I had to just
yeah,
come. And so, hey, let's believe
yeah.
God for the same thing, man. The second go around with
So
Carlos.
so yeah,
Hmm.
you got a great experience of pioneering, and you've seen some real revival out there in Chesapeake, man. And just as a
Hmm.
side for any listeners that might be wondering about a good place to pioneer, man, Chesapeake is wide open.
Whew.
I'd be preaching to
Oh
our
my
guys here in
God,
our church. I'm like, man, you don't have to look far to find a field where there's revival around here
bro.
in Hampton Roads.
Man, look, you could put about 5 or 6
Yep.
churches in Chesapeake. I'm not just saying this, man. When I say we have revival and fruit, I mean easy
Yep.
divine encounters. 85% of our
Yep.
church was from Walmart.
Come on.
85%.
That's right, man. That
85%. And I wanted it just like that. When we pioneered, I had a couple of roles because, I'm a firm believer that
yeah.
location, man, is critical. I wanted my church to be smack in the middle of souls. So when we started out at that hotel, man, it was already one of those hotels where people
Yeah.
actually lived there. So
Right.
that brought a crowd. Walmart, Sam's Club, and the street, Dunkin' Donuts was in the same parking lot. I mean, we was in the thicket of it, man. And I'll be honest with you, most of all our revivals, man, we had so much fun out there, man, just so fruitful. So yeah, listen to what Pastor Dragoon said, man. We had our new converts. My wife would create these scavenger hunt games, and we would go to Walmart and was dealing with evangelism, and she'd have something like Aquila and Priscilla was a power couple, and go to the electronic aisle. When you see a couple, let them know that they're the next power couple and witness to them. And so the new people in our church, because they knew the outreach, we wanted to make it
Wow.
fun for them and get them
Yeah.
engaged, man. And so we would go to man, I remember we were just doing radical stuff, man. We'd go to the hospital and just pray for people in the ER. I remember one time we got crazy, went to the police precinct, and one of the ladies, her job was just to create some boldness. She ran into the precinct and just yelled out. It was about like 1 o'clock in the morning. She's like, "Hey, let my people go!" And she ran back out, got in the car. We all laughing, man. Go back to the house.
Yeah.
We were just
Yeah.
having fun, man.
Well, yeah, and that's what I remember is I forget what it was. We came to your house for a Bible study or something, or for an outreach. It was a Saturday
Hmm.
outreach, I think, and that's what it was, man.
Right.
Everybody was excited. Everybody was having a good time, and that was just so infectious. And that to
Right.
me is what I see in you every time I talk to you, and that's a great gift that you can use for the kingdom. And since that
Amen.
time, I think God has been using that in a powerful way, in kind of a new dimension, man. That's pretty
Amen.
powerful. And
Right.
well, so I heard Pastor Campbell preach about this whole thing with you, feeling called to go to South Africa, and how all that worked out. Maybe for those who hadn't heard that, maybe you want to give the
Right.
overview what happened there.
So yeah. So we have a revival there in Chesapeake. Um, um, in 2018, I go. My pastor, Pastor Larry Mitchell, was a missionary in South Africa, Cape Town, for about 4 years, and so he asked me to go with him. And I was going to preach at one of the baby works on a Sunday morning, Sunday night. He was doing a revival for Pastor Ortiz, that's there in Cape Mitchell's place in South Africa. So it's a
Oh
chance of a
yeah.
lifetime just to go there. And so I'm there, man. I'm preaching, man, and unfortunately, not even hours after we landed, for those who don't know, my pastor had an accident about 12 years ago where his neck was really messed up. But at this time, he had had the surgery, so he's back normal. And so he's so excited to be back in front of these people that he hasn't seen in a while. And here it is. We land in Africa, and his neck that has been straight for 2 years, the
Oh
battery decides
no,
to
I
go
didn't know
dead on
that.
him out of nowhere. Oh yeah. And so here it is. We landed there on a Friday. That Saturday morning, we had to get his beating on my door. We got to call Pastor Ortiz. We ended up going, spending that time that day. But Sunday morning, he preached there, and Mitch was playing. I preached at the baby work, and I remember getting at our hotel at our guest house, getting ready for the second service, and his neck is killing him. And he said, "Man, you're probably gonna have to take over this whole revival." And I'm like, "Take over what?"
Trial by fire.
I'm like, "Pastor, no, I'm like, Pastor, no, you can break through to this, man. Let's pray, man." And and I'm like, "This is Africa, man. You talking about revival, man?" Like, "Oh no, I'm just here doing the baby work." And so lo and behold, man, it was a privilege, man. My pastor ended up taking off that Monday morning. I did the Sunday night shot, had to send him back to America, getting worked on. He was down for a while, and I took over and did the revival, man, and it was awesome. And now here's the thing about getting to the point of me being called to South Africa. When I was there, listen to me, Cape Town, South Africa is the 9th most dangerous
Yeah.
place in the world. I had no desire to go there, okay? Let me just put that out there. The pastors over there will make a little joke. "Hey, man, you come back here and pastor," but none of that struck me. None of that. I'm having a flaming revival in Chesapeake.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get back home, 8,000 miles away from my family. I am not thinking about pioneering in South Africa. I come back home, everything's normal. This is November we're talking about. December rolls around. January, Prescott Conference. We're going up the hill. I have not heard not one sermon. We have not got to Prescott yet. None of that. I'm texting Pastor Ortiz on WhatsApp because he's like, "Man, it was a good revival. The people really loved it. They want you to come back and
Wow.
revival." And so I'm like, "Okay, yeah. But I don't know how this missionary stuff works. I didn't know at the time. Like, you buy your own ticket to go over there. Like, I bought my ticket going there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know when they're missionaries, you supporting all that. And they were like, "Yeah, bring your wife with you." So I'm like, "Hey, Pastor, okay, we'll see that. That money on me though, right?" We politicking here around this thing. He said, "Well, just holler back at me when you get out of the
Okay.
conference. We'll talk about it." So I get out the conversation with him and these encounters again. I have not heard not one sermon. I have not been thinking about South Africa. I'm terrified of South Africa when I was there. I had a good time. I mean, I'm preaching. They're shooting outside. Like, I'm not called there. I know I'm not called there. There's nothing about it. And here it is. I haven't even heard one sermon. This is a Monday. God said, "I'm calling you to South Africa." I'm like, whatever,
You must be
man.
talking to somebody else.
I'm like, no. Cause I'm thinking, I wasn't even thinking about South Africa until I talked to Pastor Ortiz, and it gets louder and louder. And we get to Monday night, and I'm like, so I say something to my pastor Tuesday morning. I said, "Pastor, I think God's calling me to South Africa, man." And I tells him a story like I'm telling you. He's like, "Well, man, tell Pastor Campbell." So,
Oh,
you can't tell Pastor
that's for
Campbell
real.
right now. I told Pastor Campbell. He comes out and says, "What's up?" He's like, "What?" He jumping like, "Oh, let's do it. We want to do it." Right? So I'm like, "Hold, Pastor, you scaring me, man." So we're talking about different stuff. So I got both of my teenage girls that's graduating. I call my wife she's on it.
She ready.
Like, yeah, they're ready. More ready than me. I'm like, I'm mad that I even said it to anybody, right? So I'm like, "Yo, this is crazy." Pastor, "How long you been in your church?" He said, "Well, you're doing good. You have a revival there. The qualifications are there. I think you can do it." Boom, boom, boom. So I'm like, okay. So 2009, this is 2020, no, 2019. We're going back and forth that summer in regards to just South Africa. Because I'm debating, do I want to go this year or the following year? So we came to a conclusion that it was going to be 2020. Well, the summer picks up, and I'm like, "Pastor, I really feel like I need to go now." So he was like, "Okay." And then a couple of things, just going back past, like, I don't think this is the year, Deon. Maybe next year or something. So I'm like, okay. So we go into that Bible conference. We got. I mean, we cranking. We got a couple with us. Another lady, got three folks there from Chesapeake. They experiencing the conference there. And Pastor, I don't know if you remember that summer he preached that Monday night. This is the first time we're in that other building in what is it? Not
Oh, yeah.
Glendale,
Right.
but Gilbert. Yeah. And I remember I had a testimony to do that night and different stuff. And Pastor
Yeah,
preached on that
I
plow
remember.
with
Yeah.
the thing. And man, I gets back to the hotel. It's about 11:45. I said, ain't no way I can sit through this conference this is what I tell Pastor Campbell. I cannot sit through this conference all week and hear the call to go. Do you want to do this? And I know we've had
Mm,
several conversations. I said, Pastor, I
wow.
gotta go. Tuesday morning, my pastor comes into me and is like, well, you got Pastor Campbell's attention or whatever. And so we got to talking, and here it is,
Cape Town.
Cape Town. And so we're talking, da da da. I'm like, oh, how am I gonna break this down to a couple? So anyway, we get launched out, man. We get sent out, boom, and we gets back, man. The church is upset. Different things are happening. We got a quick
Right.
changeover with Antonio and Melanie, which
Right. Yeah,
our
yeah, yeah.
first pastors got our church now, and so that's interesting. But then here it is. We're there. So I sell the business. I was a franchise owner for many don't know. And I remember, listen to this. I remember when I first got that business, um, and it was a blessing financially. But I remember God saying this. Man, I'm telling you, man, you listen. When
Mm,
you are obedient, I'm just for anybody out there. When you are obedient, God
yeah,
will speak to you clear as day. If you want to know the will of God for your life, the best thing you can do to
that's
know the
right.
will of God is be obedient. That's where clarity comes in. God will speak to you. God told me 8 years ago when I got that business, He said, I'm gonna bless you with this business, but if I ask for it back, would you be willing to give it
Hmm.
back to me? I told him, yeah.
Wow.
Here he is, he's asking for it. Cause
Yeah.
now I'm trying
It's
to
your
figure out how I'm
Isaac.
gonna do this and do that. How can I juggle this? Yeah, can I still have the business a little bit while I'm over there? Cause I'm getting the logistics, how this missionary stuff work out and get a little extra cash. Nah. Boom. So I'm over there. We're staying in Newport News. We're about a
Yeah.
month. This is 2020.
Yeah.
We're getting
This
ready to
is right
go in
right before
March.
this is right before
Prescott
COVID
conference.
miss. Okay. Yep.
Yes, right before COVID, man. Thursday night, Prescott sends somebody to Cape Town. I text Pastor Campbell, like, oh, we got some visitors, Pastor Campbell. Do 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 do. He didn't reply, whatever. About 2 weeks later, I remember Sunday morning, Pastor Mitchell was like, I got to talk to you. I was like, okay, cool. But I knew it was one of them, I got to talk to you. I'm like, what's about it? I'll talk to you later. Oh, God. That's like, it's always grunt, Richard. Pastor comes to tell you something. It ain't like he's just something. He's like, yeah, I got to talk to you, you and your wife. So I gets in there, him and Miss Mona's in there. So when Miss Mona was in, I said, oh, I know this is something now. So he breaks the news down to us. He said, yeah, I'm not going to be able to send you to South Africa. So I'm like, okay, what's up? And Pastor Campbell, he tells me, he said, Pastor Campbell said all that week. Now, this is months later after talking to Pastor Campbell, because Pastor Campbell told Pastor Mitchell, like, listen, God woke him out of his dream and pretty much told him, like, something bad was going to happen to our children if we go, or something to that nature. He couldn't really just figure just different things. It wasn't good. And so I'm talking to Pastor Campbell. He said, I just don't know. I felt checked on. He said, God woke me up out of my sleep
Wow.
3 different times, not to send him. And I think so God that Pastor Campbell
That would be
made
hard.
that decision, because you know how it could be. If that would have been me,
Yeah, you
it'd
know
have been,
what?
oh,
And
that's
that,
the
that is
devil.
so like it's so
That
opposite from every other time that I've ever heard. Like let's go, send them, let's move it, This is very unique in the history.
Pastor Campbell said it. He said, I never had to do this. I never did this
Yeah.
dealing with overseas. He said, I've done this domestically in the States where God speaks to me, make some changes. No, I'm not going to send you. He said,
Yeah.
never for overseas. This is the first time. But I'm so glad he adhered to
Right.
the voice of God, because just in our stupid, like he told me, he said God spoke to him in the Prescott conference way before he had the dream not to. But he said in Prescott conference, it was more like, oh, the
Yeah.
devil just trying to, whatever he's
Right.
trying to do. That would have been
Yeah.
me.
And
It
the
still
thing
would
is
have
that
went
it
if it
wasn't
was
really
up to me.
clear, like and you had already like, sold your business and you were on the launch pad, man.
Everything ready. Bro, we were gone. We left our house. We stole all our furniture, bro. We got pictures and clothes. And we staying with a brother in the church. We're 1 month away because they just
Right.
launched Tory. to Barbados, Pastor Torrey, and we were next, man. And here's the bombshell, boom. But you know what? Just to, for the listeners, man, just show Pastor Kim was one of the. I mean, I'm not just saying this, for any type of cloud or any reason. I'm just telling you from experience. One of the best leaders we have. He took care of us. He got us back on track. Helped give us some money. Put us on staff straight from Chandler, and told Pastor that they'll hold it down for a year. Gave me some dignity. Put me on staff for a year until we Newport News to take over.
Right.
Didn't just leave me hanging or whatnot.
Wow.
And it really was a blessing. And here's the thing, though. Here's the turning point. Just bringing it more current to everything I got going on now in the ministry, man.
Seeing it now, 2020, you can,
bro,
you can see what God was doing the whole time.
Man.
Being able to look back on it now, but it was so.
Man,
you know what?
It was crazy, Pastor Dragoon.
That situation handled incorrectly, it could have been disaster. I mean, it could have been, yeah.
Pastor Campbell said that. Pastor Campbell said, Deon, he said, I tell you and your wife, he said, the way you handled that. I think he said it in Prescott. He told me several times, he said, I really appreciate how you kept your heart right in the midst of it. He said, because there's a lot of guys who wouldn't have kept their heart right. Oh, I sold the business. I did this. You told me I was going. Blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
We just obedience, man. Just believe in God, and that's what we was heartbroken. Listen, I tell people all the time. We physically didn't go to Africa.
Yeah, you're right.
Mentally, we went. Listen, we had to. No one knows the stuff me and my wife went through with in-laws, not understanding, the arguing. Our daughter was backsliding at the time. So many different things were happening in the midst of that. I mean, we're on YouTube, bro. We're there. I'm talking with Pastor Bennett, our rest of the soul, Pastor Ortiz. We talking about city. We were in Africa, bro. Mentally, we was all over South Africa, Kraaifontein, looking at where we was going to go, houses. We were there, bro. So it was a lot of build up. Our children, young, don't understand. We selling away their trampoline, their basketball goals, their friends, bro. On the back end, man, I can say this, and I say this, man, with so much grace and humble, man. Like God knew obviously what he was doing and really rewarded us for the sacrifice. And so here it is, 2000 now. And here's the thing: COVID drops weeks after Pastor Campbell makes that decision. Based on what Pastor Ortiz was telling us, we would have been in South Africa twiddling our thumb for a whole year and a half. They're just getting back to stuff months ago, even as we speak. We would have, Pastor Campbell said, we would have been sitting there, probably would have been in a guest house, wasting money because we couldn't do nothing. Pastor Ortiz said the only place you could go was groceries and some banks. Like, we would have just been sitting there doing absolutely nothing. And this is COVID in a third world country. So even with Pastor Campbell not even knowing all of that and God speaking to him, listen, when God speaks, listen, you ain't got to know all the details. You just better be obedient. You hear me? And I'm telling you, I thank God for so many. So here it is. All this transpired. We stayed faithful in the church that whole year. Getting follow up, doing what we do or whatever. This is 2020. That summer, months later, my father-in-law passed away. But we had a chance to pray with him. He gets saved. He came to a Tony Chase revival. Months prior to that, he was up in New York. None of that wouldn't happen. We was over there. My daughter comes back. She's been backsliding for like 8-9 months. Comes back humble and gets saved or whatnot at the time. And here it is going into 2020. In 2020, we have 2 revivals. I never forget as we're getting to wind down. Pastor Hart came first. And I remember him giving us a word. He said, listen, Deon, we serve a God that is not a God that is double-minded. When I said the whole air dropped out of the church network, everybody knew exactly what he meant. Because in my mindset, them not knowing what I'm thinking, but he simply says God's not a God double-minded. In other words, he didn't make no mistake by you not going. He's not double-minded. There's something bigger that's happening. 2 months later, Pastor McCarthy comes to a revival. He tells me, he said,
Hmm.
Deon, the next big thing is coming. Stay tuned. Well, I think we all know what one of those big things are, because here it is, 2020 winds down. Another thing out of nowhere come in. Pastor makes a change and make me the assistant pastor in 2000, top of 2021. Man, I take it by the bull, man. Our church, man, just exploded, man. The Walmart Blitz, effective witnessing class, certain different things. People are rising up, man. Our church is really pulled together through COVID and had revival. And now here it is, 2021. I'm coming to the Jacksonville conference. And my wife tells me, she said, and so I just want to say this, shout out to my wife, man, because she's so creative with her ideas and inspiring me. This whole evangelism revival was really her idea. We're going into the Jacksonville conference. She said, babe, maybe you should do these Walmart blitzes, this whole, because we've seen fruit from it in our church and different things. And this Walmart blitz, for those who don't know, this is just a string of outreach events. It's something special about getting your church on one accord, outside on four walls together on consecutive days. It's like, so for us, when a Walmart Blitz come around in our church, it's like a real revival. You know how like you have a revival, there's a different type of an expectancy, a divine encounter. Well, that's how we feel about this outreach event we do called a Walmart Blitz. It's Saturday on steroids for 7 days straight. You see what I'm saying? And we do it every other month so we don't get burnt out, and we keep that refreshing of atmosphere of evangelism permeating in our church. So my wife's like, she said, why don't you take maybe like 3 days, do the effective witnessing class, and do like the Walmart Blitz for like 3 days in some of our fellowship churches locally. And I'm driving, I'm saying, you know what about I make it like a revival? Where I do like, I started on a Wednesday or Sunday, because that's the whole, I want to make a build up of what guys. This is one of these revivals, like Pastor Dylan said at conference. It's not one of those things where you're waiting to at the very end to see what God did, but you're seeing it in the midst from start, middle to finish, because the church is literally part of the revival. You're getting involved. It ain't just these 5 services where the preachers are preaching and you just sit, oh, that was a good revival. No, you're in it. And so preach a sermon on Wednesday. I do the effective witnessing class on Thursday, and then we go out outreaching Thursday night, Friday, a double outreach on Saturday. I do the Sunday school, the Sunday morning and Sunday night, and all of these sermons and classes is geared towards evangelism, effective witnessing, follow up, dealing with people, church building. And man, I get to Jacksonville, and I present this to a couple of pastors. The first one being Pastor Gerard Smith, which used to be the assistant pastor in Jacksonville, that's down in Miami now, Pembroke Pines, and he's jumped all over. He said, bro, I want to do this. Well, as a matter of fact, you was the first one, Pastor Adam, where we kind of did something brief, because it was right before when Rome, Pastor Kovos had his a week before his resurrection Sunday service, and you wanted to kind of get in or whatever. So we kind of did something there, partial or whatever. It's like the first time,
It
but
was
then
a weekend. Yeah.
the weekend, but
Right.
the first full one
Right.
was in April there in Miami. And I tell you, man, from there, this next big thing that Pastor McCoffin and God's not a God of double minded. I tell you what, this ministry was not in the forecast, and it just
Yeah.
has taken off and has hit the ears of all, mostly of all of our leaders
It's
in our
amazing.
fellowship. And like I said, been to Chandler, Tucson, Pastor Terry Haynes Church. I mean, go to Jacksonville, North Carolina, actually in 2 more days for Pastor Spansky. And yes, blessing, man. I'm booked all the way to 2024, and I'm not an
Holy
evangelist.
ghost.
Pastor been on
Unbelievable.
me like, hey, man, you're the assistant here. We know we need you here. And I try to keep everything in perspective, because again, for the list, I'm not an evangelist. I'm an assistant pastor here in Newport News, but God just kind of just doing something special and breathing on it, and is really just helping our churches and our fellowship, man. And as Pastor Warner said, man, he said he thinks it's just monumental for our fellowship, considering COVID
Yeah.
and people being locked in and
Yeah.
complacent. He said this is just very
It's
remarkable what's happening.
a word in due season is what it is.
Yeah,
It's what we
amen.
need. So, man, you couldn't orchestrate it. You couldn't put it together even if you
No,
wanted to. and it was
Yeah. Yeah.
God putting all the pieces right in the right places at the right times, and it wasn't just you either. Like when you
Mm-mm.
say about staying obedient, that was critical, right? Keeping your heart
Mm.
right. But it's
Right.
also Pastor Campbell, the leadership, and
Yes.
then how it flows through your pastor, and each one of those
Right.
pieces have to treat it right, have to do it well, have to keep a good
Right.
attitude,
Right.
and
Yep.
that's not an easy thing, man. And
Yeah. Yes. There's so
one
many roles
one
involved.
misstep
Absolutely.
along the
Right.
way, and it doesn't work
Right.
out the way that it worked out. But God is so faithful, man. That is amazing, and what a testimony that is, bro.
Right. And to be like you said, I mean, Pastor Campbell, once he got a whiff of it and went for a couple of, I mean, he promoted it.
Yeah.
To where it's like, this is needed, man. So I'm just blessed, man, and to see what God's doing. And I mean, I tell people, man, people wonder why I'm always just so hype and just extra or always seem. It's like this: when you see the miracle hand of God move in a certain area, often you'll be ecstatic too.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening as I'm going across through our fellowship and I'm seeing what God's doing in these churches. I'm seeing the divine encounters. I mean, there's people that are in ministry. There's a guy in Pastor Dilla's church. He was the first person I witnessed to when I was in California. His name is Neil, and Five Guys. He's in ministry today.
Wow.
7,
Praise
8
God.
months later.
Yeah.
He went to conference 2 months after I was there. Just all in, bro.
It's powerful.
I mean,
yeah.
just stuff that's like that, man. And so, yes, I'm excited all the time. I'm in my sleep excited because I am seeing the hand of God.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you saw somebody being healed every day. Let's say you see somebody that was in a wheelchair, and it was this guy that was going around healing people. You know that person. You're going to be bugged out if you see that all the time. Well, I'm seeing divine encounters.
Yeah.
I'm hearing testimonies of people that have been saved way longer than I, 20, 30 years, saying, man, this has really changed my life.
Yeah.
Not just help me evangelize, and another thing I never noticed as I've been doing this, how much the devil has really been beating people up in this area of effective evangelism. It has really taken a toll, and the enemy has used it to really discourage the Christian from witnessing.
That's right.
To really testify. It brought about fear, and it also brought a sense of useless or not being
fruitful.
Fruitful,
right.
And it really has damaged other areas of their life. I did not know that people was affected by that until I've been traveling, and people are telling me how blessed they are from this revival and where they were at. I had no idea.
Wow.
The in depth of, and that's why this evangelism revival is more than just how to evangelize. I'm dealing with the dynamics.
Yeah.
The opposition of evangelism, how he tried to take advantage of our outreaches. I mean, it kind of goes really, really in depth there. So, but anyway, yeah, man.
Praise
God's
God.
on the phone, bro.
Well, right now we're our men's group is going through the one of the pioneer books from our fellowship is We Can Take the Land. That one of those old Pastor Mitchell books, and when you read those stories about how the fellowship was back then, I mean that was their life. I mean that was what they did. They would get saved and they would be witnessing everywhere they went, and Jesus was coming back, and if you don't get right, you're gonna get left, and that was the air that they were breathing. So what you're involved in, bro, that it's a restoration to our fellowship roots.
Well, you know what? Let's talk about it just briefly. Pastor Warner, Pastor Campbell, Pastor Terry Haynes. I'm just talking about the old dogs in the game. I think that's why it's almost like this is familiar.
Yep.
Not that again. Hey, listen, we're one of probably the few. I praise God. We are a evangelistic fellowship. That's what we do. Absolutely. We churches don't. A universal church is not doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like talking about. We that's the heartbeat of it.
That's right.
But I'm just talking about the radicalness of it, that all the time, like the DNA, and that's what I'm trying to bring in this revival. We need to be witnessing more than often.
Yeah.
It got to be bigger than just a Saturday thing. This thing got to be a lifestyle all the time. This got to be second nature, man. That's what I think because of that's the way it was.
Yeah.
It ain't happening. It's happening, but I'm talking about at a constant. That's what the Terry Haynes and the Pastor Campbells of the world, and Pastor Warners remember
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
And so they hearing this, they're like, yo, this is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to do this.
Yeah, and really it's the core of what we ought to be as disciples of Jesus, right? This is not
Right.
anything strange. This is not anything new. This is
Mm-mm.
the old truth. This is the book of
It's
Acts.
bread and butter, man.
I mean, this is the
it.
book of Acts. This is, this is what we're
Right.
supposed to be. And the truth is, that whenever you have something ingrained in the DNA of a fellowship like we do, like evangelism, and it's so easy for that just to become a picture on the wall or a piece of furniture in the corner or a Saturday morning outreach. It's just one of the many things that we do, but it's not. It really should be the core of, it's the very reason why God saves us in the first place. And he doesn't suck us up to heaven the moment you get saved. No,
come on, preach
he
that.
leaves you on this broken rock planet so that we can be witnesses. We can be a light to the world. We can be the light.
Somebody.
You know what I'm saying? And
that's it.
So I'm really encouraged, man, that this ministry is going to have a profound effect wherever it goes. And I pray that that it'll be multiplied and that people will not just have you in for a revival. Anybody that hears this, yeah, get him in 2025 or 2026 or something like that. But but more than that, but that this would be a legacy that that through you God can put into our churches once again and in our fellowship. We can see that last days revival, man.
Praise God, man. Amen.
Bring it. Okay.
Amen.
So, man, we're approaching a 2-hour interview. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Woo! So for those marathon runners who have made it to the end, I wonder if you could share maybe one or two prayer requests with our listeners who are going to hear this.
I'm sorry.
I said share one or two prayer requests in your life right now that we can pray for.
Oh, number one, pray that God can, because at the same time, pray that God continues and He has just really strengthened my wife and my children when I'm gone, as well as the church as well. Again, I'm not an evangelist. My pastor has graciously allowed me to go every once a month and do these. And as much as I enjoy doing it and whatever, man, my hat goes off to the evangelists. Just being in those hotels, man. Listen, pray for the evangelists. I know you asked me for a prayer request for me, but because I'm in it, pray for the evangelists. Pray for the missionaries, man, because I'm doing this and I love what I do. But man, that's tough. I don't like just getting on planes. So pray for strength and endurance for me and protection while I'm out there in these revivals, and just really believe in God. Like I say, just for I will say, man, early on, and it's gotten better. The devil's not going to just sit back on his rocking chair and let you just punch him all the time. So there's been times where I can just feel the demonic attack upon me. Frontlining this thing, and how he don't like the fact that churches are being helped and people are believing again. And so I've taken some small, just different just attacks, and listen, in the midst of this situation, for the success of different things, and I'd be the first to say, just being honest, you gotta watch, you gotta do this in humility. Yeah, with all the pats on the back and, oh, Pastor Howard, you're doing, hey, I gotta block that stuff. Just, it's a real battle that comes with success and different things. And, if you're not careful, that stuff can be crumbling down. And so you pray that God keeps me humble in the midst of what He's using me to do.
Praise God. Okay, well, if you don't mind, I would love to pray for you for just a moment. And then when I'm done praying, you can pray for our audience and who's going to listen to this. And as we close this out
Amen.
with a word of prayer, all right? Father, in Jesus' name,
Amen.
I thank you for all that
Yes.
you've done for
Yes.
this incredible testimony of grace. Lord, that you saved this man and
Yes.
his family. Lord, you brought him to your kingdom for such a time as
Yes.
this. And I
God, we
thank you,
thank you, God.
Lord, that you are faithful, that you have
Yes,
led and
Lord
guided him
Jesus.
every step of the way. Lord, and you've even
Yes,
brought him
Lord
to this
Jesus.
incredible ministry of leadership in the Newport News Church as
Yes,
an armor
God, we
bearer for
praise
his
your name,
pastor,
God.
and also, God, as an
Yes, Lord.
encourager, as a Barnabas in our modern day church.
Hallelujah,
God, I
God.
pray that you would give him grace wherever he goes,
Yes,
give
Lord
him
Jesus.
understanding and
Thank you,
wisdom,
Father God.
God, beyond his years and beyond his
Oh,
experience, Lord.
God.
I pray, fill him with the Holy Spirit and give him
Yes,
understanding
Lord.
and
Help me,
words to
Jesus.
speak, God, even to people in the midst of desperation. And I'm praying, God, every church that he goes into, Lord, would be
Oh, yes,
encouraged and
Lord Jesus.
would have a measure of incredible revival, that you would save souls. And in the wake of these meetings, God, that you would do supernatural miracles and bring people to
Yes,
salvation. God, as we are fulfilling this commandment to preach the gospel in every nation before your
yes.
return, God, help us to be
Hallelujah.
encouraged even by this testimony. And we thank you for all who've listened, and God, we give you all the honor. You are the one deserving of all the glory
Yes,
and
yes,
praise.
yes.
I pray, send angels to gird him up and protect him on every side. Every attack of the enemy would be unsuccessful, or that every fiery dart of hell
Yes,
would be
Lord.
extinguished in Jesus' name. And we believe you tonight
Yes.
for all that you're going to do in the months and years to come. We give you glory. Amen. Now pray for them
Amen.
listeners right now that made it 2 hours, and
Oh,
and
yeah,
lift them up
amen.
in
God
Jesus'
bless
name.
you. Amen. Praise God. Yes, Heavenly Father, God, I do thank you, God. Count it a privilege, God, to be able, God, to be on this platform with Pastor Dragoon. I pray, God, for every listener, God, that listen, that the testimony of mine that was spoken, God, is really encourage people, God, to see the depthness of their life. Oh, God, I pray, God, Lord, that this testimony that was shared, God, shine some light on someone in regards, God, to just trusting in you, not wasting time, God, being able to grow up, God, and get their hearts right with you, God. I pray, God, right now, God, that those that are listening will be encouraged to evangelize, God, to share the gospel for people, God, of all walks of life. God, I pray, God, right now, God, boldness, God. I even pray against the spirit of fear and intimidation and that comes against evangelizing. Right now, I pray, God, Lord, that you would give your people a compassion, God, oh God, to do, God, what you called all of us to do. And I just ask, God, you have blessed Pastor Dragoon, this ministry that's shining so much light and encouragement to people that they can hear leaders in our fellowship that have real testimonies and real circumstances and situations that God set them free from. I pray let this be an encouragement to all that hear. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, brother, and
Hallelujah.
thank
Oh,
thank
yeah.
you for your time, for your testimony, and for your heart for the kingdom. What a blessing it is, man, to serve God alongside you and to see all that God's going to do in your life. So we appreciate you very much.
Amen. Thanks a lot, man. This is good, man. This. Hey, listen, I want to know because, like I said, Pastor Cole has told me about it. How can I subscribe and begin to hear other testimonies? And I want to do that
Oh,
tonight, bro.
fantastic.
Like,
I'm so glad you asked. So,
right.
by now, only premium subscribers will be hearing this, but for
Right.
those who may be hearing this for the first time, you can subscribe in two different places. You can go to Apple Podcasts, and if you subscribe there, it's $4.99 a month. And out of $4.99, $3.50 comes to us. Apple takes their cut, so then we take that and we're gathering it all up, and we're going to put it into the offering plate on Thursday night World Evangelism in our upcoming conference. And if you want to save a few bucks, you can also go to our other platform, which is called Supercast. There's a link in the show notes. You can use that link. You can do the same premium subscription. It's ad free, it's distraction free. You're also getting all 7 of our episodes every week rather than just the 4 on the free platform. And so when you go there, it's only $3.99 a month rather than the $4.99. So that's the way you can save a couple of bucks, and because they don't take a big cut out of it like Apple does. So that's what we have available. And when you subscribe, you get early episodes. You get 7 episodes a week. You get the full version of Testimony Tuesdays. You're getting PC Thursdays that the free subscribers don't get. You're getting the Study Day Saturdays, and you get the opportunity to join in these live recordings of Testimony Tuesday. So we want to take care of our premium subscribers, because we're not taking a dime out of this. We are we're so blessed that by now we're already bringing in close to $300 a month for the cause of world evangelism. So God is really helping us, and we're excited to put that in. Amen. So, amen. Thank you for asking.
That's awesome. Oh yeah. That's good stuff. I'm signing up tonight.
Very good. Well, I want to say thank you to all of our listeners who've made it this far, and man, we are very excited to continue to see what God is doing on these Testimony Tuesdays. We'll look for you next week. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.